a writer's room would probably describe it as a very inside out way of writing. First of all think of the problem, and then think about how the specific character would react to that specific problem. So usually it's problem first. Mm-hmm. And that kind of there's always a solution. That line of Ali's is also a line of mine, because I write such that I write myself into corners. I get myself stuck. I get on my knees and I pound my forehead against the floor, wondering why I do it to myself. But it's not inspiring. It's a compelling way to write, because I get up in the morning and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do that day. And that's an attribute which I largely share with Ali, although I'm unable to nail two pieces of wood together, let alone disassemble an engine.
How do you tackle those problems separately? So I'm sure you can't talk about this, but I see you got a credit for Escape from New York, and you've also got a lot of television work. So if you're writing alone versus with the writer's room, how do you tackle these problems in different ways?
I don't work with a writer's room in the traditional way. Mm-hmm. Truth. I find writer's rooms are supremely efficient television making machines. But I think that the machine which they represent is a model of making television which is essentially dying on its ass. Writers' rooms work best when you're making 24 episodes a year, I think. And I find a traditional writer's room for what was going to be a 9-episode season, I find it in fact to be inefficient and to slow things down. And I am a benign dictator, but I am a dictator. I'm a control freak about this stuff. So what I like to do is to provide the room with a 2-3 page outline of a given episode, and then work. This is my preference, and it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's efficient and it's fun. It is to work essentially Socratically with a given writer.
Became the writer's room assistant on the first season of House of Cards, and then also worked as Bo Williman's assistant during the production of that show. And that was an extremely formative experience for me. I got to pitch a lot in the room. I ended up getting promoted for season 2 to a staff writer. And then it was just off to the races for me. And I love getting to do it every single day. It is just the best, even at its most torturous.
What are some of the assistant roles for those kind of unfamiliar with that position?
Sure. I started out working for like a mini studio that financed and produced movies and TV called Media Rights Capital. And they basically, they would finance and produce a show or a movie and then sell the distribution rights to another studio or network for TV. And so I was answering the phones for the guys that ran the company, and I was scheduling all their meetings, making sure everything ran on time. But you're at a nexus of the business. You get to read a lot of scripts. You get to listen to your boss's phone calls when they're talking to big creatives. I got to listen to my bosses talk with huge directors and writers and see how the business really works and develop your sense of taste. And honestly, like reading the scripts was the biggest part of it for me. I read every single thing that came through the door almost. I probably read 6 scripts a week for 5 years. So I really developed a voice. And then I was always writing at night. And then from there, I became an assistant on the writer's room assistant on House of Cards. And that's a different beast. You're sitting in the writer's room with the people who are the writers on the show, and everyone's pitching ideas. And your job is to take copious notes and keep the ideas that are propelling the show forward organized. Or when you're talking about a specific episode or specific storyline, like you're the keeper of the show almost, which is also an incredible job for an aspiring writer, because it's almost like the entire show actually passes through you. And you get a really great sense from senior writers how to pitch story, how to solve story problems, how to talk about character, and really just like the craft of making television. And then when you're in there for a minute and the writers start to trust you and you're doing good work as an assistant, you get to pitch things, you get to participate.
In my career, and I'm sure most people would say the same thing, it's all about collaborating. Certainly that's what show running is. People have maybe the opposite opinion sometimes, that it's this sort of commanding auteurish presence that has to dictate the terms, but absolutely fundamental is collaboration. And you have to enjoy that if you want to do the job. Some people don't enjoy it. I often hear showrunners whining and think, why did you even want to do this job then? Because that's what it is. And unless you get pleasure, but I told you when I went right from the beginning, your very first question, those kids that I formed a theater company, to pay my way through university, did children's theater. We stuck together and years later wrote a musical and all won Tonys together because I kept up those relationships and I enjoyed working with them. And at least I'm the kind of person that it's not just pleasure. I feed off of other people's. My best moments in writing this show were moments where I thought, yes, this is a total Park Chan-wook idea. He's going to love this. And I would give it to him, and he would never give it to me. He would always go, yes, it's good, but I think like this. That's when I knew it was going to work, when he tried to trump me. But I love those moments. Unless you can get pleasure out of helping people succeed and bringing out the best in them, then it really isn't the job. Then you should at least not show running. You can still write, but even in the room, like, that's the fun of it.